Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the home of champions based in the Limburg region here in Belgium for the 2025 Champions Winter Trophy. And a warm welcome wherever you're watching on the B&L Karting Series YouTube channel. We've already had 12 qualifying heats over yesterday, but today is the big day. It's finals day and it's a one-off event, which means it's winner take all. 131 drivers from 11 different nationalities have ventured to this 1,360 metre circuit that was first opened back in 1984, as it now enters into its 5th decade of operation by the Lemons family. Also, this is a joint production in terms of the organisation behind the scenes. This is organised by Limburg Karting, who also organised the B&L Karting Series, which kickstarts off in 2 weeks' time, Rotax Max Challenge Germany, and the Chrono Karting Dutch Championship. Their seasons will very soon be getting underway. Now, more to the point, what is the Champions Winter Trophy? It's an opportunity to have a one-off, competitive experiment for everybody out there. Plus, also, we're right in the end of February, so the weather here in Limburg has been anything, as always, predictable. Which means, at the moment, we've had sunshine. Yesterday we had sunshine, but we also had that wonderful Limburg weather, which means at the drop of a hat, you see some grey cloud, run, duck for cover, because we had a lot of saturation yesterday afternoon. But this circuit has been a mainstay for not just national, but international competition. And it evolved in the early 2000s to the 1,360 metre 12-turn circuit that you now see. It has fantastic facilities, and what's more, it's a track that is a driver's favourite, a combination of technicality and high speed. And more to the point, with warm-up already completed, we're getting ready for the superheats here for all 6 of the respective Rotax Racing family classes, from Mini Rookie all the way up to DD2 Masters. And what's more, despite the wet weather we had yesterday, the action was spectacular. For those wondering about the timetable, we're going to shortly kick things off in about 4 minutes' time with the Mini and Mini Rookie Superheats, which will take place over a duration of 9 minutes plus an additional lap. DD2 and DD2 Masters at 10:50 local time for their superheat. 18 competitors in total. But we head down to the dummy grid for the first time here today on Sunday morning. And 3 competitive heats. Heat 2 for Mini and Mini Rookie was one of the most spectacular. Close fought, sporting prowess from all of the 35 drivers that have headed to the Limburg region. They represent 8 different nationalities, with Denmark, Germany, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Belgium, the United Kingdom, France and Latvia. Very shortly, well, the mechanics have now been asked, with 3 minutes to go until the drivers are released, to clear the grid. So it's down to the drivers to focus at this particular moment in time, visualise how they're going to attack the circuit. There is a dry line definitely forming. There is Max Jolly, last year ran with Hunter Motorsports, now has joined Strawberry Racing, one of the European powerhouses and global powerhouses when it comes to Rotax competition. But also there's a couple of dark horses in this upcoming superheat. Max Jolly came into the superheat with 2 wins and a 2nd place, totaling 144 points. Just behind him is the 122 of Sam Pollitt Racing's young superstar Riley Morrow, who managed to pick up a 3rd and 2 seconds yesterday, and definitely in Heat 3 yesterday afternoon before we closed out the racing action, gave Max Jolly something to think about. So Max Jolly's going to have eyes in the back of his head. So a warm welcome and a big thank you to our new streaming partners for 2025. We welcome along WFR Live TV, and they will be with us for the full season for the B&L Karting Series, starting in 2 weeks' time from the 7th to the 9th of March, and we'll be right back here to kickstart what is effectively the 18th season of competition for the B&L Karting Series. RMC Germany will very soon in April get their season underway, and so will Chrono Karting, which is the Rotax Max Challenge Netherlands. So 35 drivers in total, and these youngsters have very much impressed out on track. But more to the point, this is the real test for drivers to really up their game in terms of racecraft and how they improve race by race. We're just under 60 seconds away from the green flag being shown at the end of the diamond grid. So if you are watching on the official B&L Karting Series YouTube channel, please put a message in the chat. Tell us where you're watching from. Tell us who you're supporting. No matter where you are in the world, we welcome you all, our viewers and our motorsport fans and family out there. But this is really a great indication. You can just see Jeff Verbeek on the right-hand side of your screen, the number 126, running with Birger Bouvin's team. Very, very competitive youngster, very much came flying out of the blocks last year and could be one of the drivers that could impress this weekend. So the engines rev up, the grid now starts to make its way onto the first of 2 formation laps here at the Home of Champions. So let's take you through the starting grid. It is going to be as follows. Max Jolly, the 116 from the United Kingdom, starts from pole position. Belgium's Jeff Verbeek will be alongside on the front row. Then we've got Riley Morrow and Austin Amman. It's an all Sam Pollitt Racing Sam Pollitt Racing row 2. Lewis Boots and Leon Herbos round out row 3 ahead of Klaus Hans and Mick Klenkers. Finn Albert Jorgensen and the Netherlands Tiger Holthausen rounds out the top 10. Jensen Walker and Matthias Verreken next up, with Sasha Al-Jabrail and Dejan Habits. August Lingzo will be next up in 15th, head of Germany's Julian Dummer, with Lennart Köster and Andreas Jererup from Germany and Denmark respectively, rounding out the next row. Juliana Marie Schulz and Connor Haufer round out your top 20. Max van der Meer, Bruno Gajewski, then Paul Dussart and Twen van Melk round out the top 24 drivers. The UK's Ram Frakaitis starts 25th ahead of Tristan Abeels, Maximilian Kiel, Ryan Rampadarath, Ben Falke, Kian Hay, Ludwig Fuhrmann, Marcus Tenkate, Dimitar Lazarov, Kilian Kommer and Luxembourg's Philippe Massard rounding out the 35-strong grid. So, Kian Vissers watching from Marshall Post 4. I hope you got your headphones in and don't concentrate on that screen. We want to make sure those flags are waving perfectly. So, the racing will be overseen by race director Manuel Branco, who joined us the RMC Golden Trophy late last year. So this will be 9 minutes plus an additional lap, and it's 50 points for a win in the heats. The super heat, you pick up a victory, that is 75 points. And when we get to the finals, which are due to start from 1:45 p.m. local time, the points go out of the window. They're past tense, they're ancient history. And then it's everyone for themselves. A wonderful glint of sunshine coming off of the wet part of the tarmac here at the Home of Champions. But now the drivers getting into formation. Once they get past the red line of no return after turn number 11, then they have to be in the right position. If someone's out of position, they will get a penalty for incorrect positioning on the grid. And now a couple of drivers who might have find themselves coming out a little bit late from the dummy grid now get themselves sorted into position. So the red lights are ignited on the starting gantry for finals day for the 2025 Champions Winter Trophy. This is the next step out of 3 for these drivers to take as we come out of the final corner. Revs up, lights on, and the lights are out, and finals day is underway here. Down into turns 1 and 2 go the field as there's a dive up the inside. Riley Morrow dives up the inside through on Max Jolly. And Lewis Boots has already gotten up the order, but they're making their way out through turn number 5 as we speak. But more to the point, it really is the case of this close pack racing that the mini rookie drivers have showcased all weekend long is being exemplary here. But we've got a turnaround. That is the 131 DN Habits that's gone around. Another driver compromised. So drama already on the first lap, as there is going to be a change for second position. Max Jolly leads. Now it's Jeff Verbeek in second position. I think Austin Aman might have just stolen a slight march on his Sam Pollock Racing teammate, or it could be somebody else there. That is going to be Lewis Boots, who's now currently in third, as Riley Morrow tries to get the overshot through out of turn number 11 and makes that move work rather nicely. But out of the final corner, we complete lap number 1. So Max Jolly has a lead of just under half a second. Well, it's Jeff Verbeek who's now leading, so Max Jolly in second. Riley Morrow right on his rear exhaust and rear bumper in third. Lewis Boots, Tygo Holthausen, has catapulted his way up from 10th on the grid and now runs a genuine 5th ahead of Leon Herboz. Matthias Verreken also making 5 places up at the start. Austin Aman has dropped down to 8th ahead of Finn Albert Jorgensen, with Mick Klinkers rounding out your top 10 so far. So DN Habits dropped 17 places. Jensen Walker has suffered dramas as well. The 125 from the United Kingdom down to 27th. And Julian Dummer was also caught up in the crossfire. Meantime, the 2 Tony Karts of Bouvan Powers, Jeff Verbeek, and Strawberry Racing's Max Jolly lead the way. And the gap is starting to close between the pair. Side by side heading down into turn number 10 a little bit further back. And one of which will be Matthias Verreken, I believe, ahead of Austin Aman. Out of the final corner to complete lap number 2. And Riley Morrow has got through on Max Jolly for second position. Riley Morrow, new fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 10.183. Sasha Al-Jabrail has just suffered drama and has just dropped down into 17th position. But Jeff Verbeek trying to steal a march on the opposition. But it is going to be rather close at the sharp end of the field as they head down the Europolan, travelling at the best part of over 90 kilometres an hour. And the speed limit for the parallel road itself is 90 kph. And Riley Morrow now takes the lead from Jeff Verbeek. Max Jolly holding on to third at the meantime. It's not getting any easier out there because there's a lot of still very damp tarmac, but there is a dry line. More to the point, well, Jeff Verbeek has definitely tried to get his stamp back onto this race, but it's not being easy for anybody out there. All 35 runners and riders are still competing, but it is still Riley Morrow that is going to lead after lap 3. Jeff Verbeek second. Max Jolly, Lewis Boots, Tygo Holthausen. Austin Aman now starting to recover and has moved back up to 6th place. Leon Herboz, Finn Albert Jorgensen now gets through on Matthias Verreken. Riley Morrow, new fastest lap of the race, 109.510. And he's starting to pull a little bit of a gap. It was nearly 2.5 tenths. Verbeek goes a little bit wide going into turn 6. Max Jolly takes the traditional racing line in apex. Meantime, 133 was trying to make a move. And that was Ludwig Furman from Denmark, who's made up what could have been 13 places. And now is gunning for 18th alongside with Sasha Al-Jabrail from Belgium. And more to the point, well, it could be 17th now, but Riley Morrow has got a lead and it is expanding. It's now over a second. He's putting in qualifying style laps as the number 122 from Sam Pollitt Racing, and still this battle coming down into turn 10 is wheel to wheel, side by side for the briefest of moments, and Morrow has bolted with 4 minutes and a quarter plus an additional lap. It's now 1.2 seconds between him and Jeff Verbeek, but Max Jolly decides to thread the eye of the needle up the inside at turn number 2, retakes second position, and now the hunting can begin. Another successive fastest lap of the race for Riley Morrow, 1:07.815. And he is clearing off into the distance. And Jeff Verbeek dived to the inside of Max Jolly through at turn number 6. Jolly was quick to respond and got the crisscross, got the job done, lit up the rear tyres, the tyres bit down onto the tarmac, and the 116 from Strawberry Racing, representing the UK, shot off like a rocket out of a cannon. So everyone still running, as we have 3.5 minutes still to go in this only superheat. We have got pretty much nearly a capacity grid for this class. The grandstands and the mechanics viewing gallery are respectively very well packed at the moment. Still in single digits when it comes to the outside air temperature, but we completed 5 laps, and now Max Jolly has responded and is closing the gap to Riley Morrow. It was just over 1.2, it's now 0.8, and Jolly with a 1:07.737 second lap time around this 12-turn circuit. Meantime, battle happening between, I think that was Matthias Verreken and Klaus Hans. And Julian Dummer is starting to make a comeback, closing in on the rear bumper of Tristan Beals. That is the battle on track for 15th place. And Julian Dummer running on the Formula K chassis, trying to close in on the Belgian in front as they go through the Europolan at turn 7. And Dummer's really got a good run coming out of the corner. And more to the point, well, Beals ran wide and Dummer took quick advantage of it. Gap is closing still with 2 minutes to go plus an additional lap between Riley Morrow and Max Jolly, and another new fastest lap for the 116 from the United Kingdom, 1:07.665. And we've got another battle, that is Austin Aman, who has just got past the Netherlands Tygo Hodhausen, and that was for 5th place. So great to see that the competitive sporting prowess of these mini drivers is on full display here at the Home of Champions. There's a couple of drivers having to avoid the runoff area, as that is going to be very, very close. Oh, someone's just gone completely off at turn 4. And nearly ended up being a rallycross style joker lap there, I'm afraid. That was that was a Maranello chassis. Didn't quite pick out the number just because of the glare. But Riley Morrow is having to now have eyes in the back of his head. Max Jolly is about 4 kart lengths behind as they cross the line to complete lap number 7. So, So Max Jolly once again has decided to put the pedal to the metal. 1:06.960, and he's gone absolute best of anybody this race in sectors 2 and 3. Riley Morrow has responded with the absolute best overall sector 1 in this race. Next time it will be the final lap of this first of what will be a scheduled 6 total superheats here today. 10 races to conclude the Champions Winter Trophy here at the Home of Champions. And more to the point, it's getting a bit close. A 3-way scrap going through turns 3, 4 and 5. But some great racing up and down the order here at the Home of Champions to kickstart finals day. And the leaders now come across the line. Riley Morrow leads after lap 8, and it's lap 9. Final lap underway. Gap now 3/10. If Max Jolly was within 2/10 of a second, he would have had an opportunity to get the slingshot past on Austin Oman and maybe get the run through into turn 2. But then Riley Morrow has just put in the overall fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 6.776. So responded in kind and thought, well, Max Jolly's behind me. I need to scarper. I need to get away. And that's exactly what he has done. But there's still a handful of corners to go. And depending on which part of the circuit your 4 contact patches, aka tyres, land on there, that can depend on whether you do get the traction out of the corner or whether you don't. The checker flag is being prepared to conclude the first superheat of the 2025 Champions Winter Trophy. It's going to be the run out of the final corner, and Sam Pollitt Racing's Riley Morrow picks up his first win of the weekend, taking the victory here in Superheat for Mini and Mini rookies. Max Jolly finishing half a second behind. Jeff Verbeek third. Fourth, Austin Oman. Lewis Boots for Falcon Racing Team takes 5th place, ahead of Tygo Holthausen. August Lingzo takes 7th, having started 15th on the grid. Great work by the youngster from Denmark. Klaus Hans, Leon Herbos and Finn Albert Jorgensen completes your top 10. Matthias Verreken and Connor Halfer finish 11th and 12th respectively. Max van der Meer, Dejan Habets and Germany's Julian Dumas complete your top 15. Tristan Abils, Mick Klinkers, Ludwig Fuhrmann, Leonard Köster, Paul Dussard, Ryan Rampadarath, Jensen Walker, Juliana Marie Schultz, Ralf Rakaitis, Maximilian Kiel complete the top 25 finishers in the race, with everyone out of the 35 making it to the checkered. Andreas Jererup 26th, ahead of Trem van Melk, Dimitar Lazarov, Sasha Al-Jabrail, Bruno Krzyzewski, Kian Hay, Philippe Massard, Ben Falker, Marcus Tenkate and Kilian Kommer, all finishing within 52 seconds of each other after 9 laps of racing. But Riley Morrow picks up the win as they now head onto the gantry at the weighbridge to be weighed. Front bumpers will be checked, and then of course there can be spot technical checks. But taking a look back at the race itself, it was Jolly versus Verbeek on the front row. The revs went up, the lights went out, and finals day truly got underway here in the wonderful Sunday morning Limburg sunshine. But there was a little bit of contact here or there, and then a turnaround at turn number 6. But Riley Morrow becomes the 3rd different winner here this weekend in Mini and Mini Rookie. So a great showing by the entirety of the 35 strong drivers. And the intermediate classification, of course, the results called by myself up here in the commentary position are provisional pending sporting and technical checks. It means that Max Jolly is on 213 points, which effectively puts him on pole for the final. Riley Morrow moves ahead of Jeff Verbeek in the final intermediate classification on 204 points. Verbeek is 3rd on 195. Austin Oman 171, rounding out the top 4, with Lewis Boots, Leon Herbos, Klaus Hans and Tygo Holthausen rounding out the top 8 in the final intermediate classification. And we now head down to the dummy grid once again. It's DD2 and DD2 Masters. And, well, the overall leader after the intermediate classification following the heats yesterday was the Czech Republic's Jakub Bezel. Lawrence Herbos made sure that his presence was felt, put it on pole position. And more to the point, while the grid is going to be cleared ahead of their superheat. So 18 drivers, one sole DD2 Masters driver, last year's Dutch Rotax Max Challenge champion for chrono karting, Wim Rouleau. There's Louis Koch for KAF Motorsport did a really, really good overtake, ran the outside of, I think it was Nicolas Guillaume at turn 11 yesterday during one of the heats. Nearly put me out of my seat and probably falling backwards at the same time. But this will be a longer adventure for these drivers, 12 minutes plus an additional lap. Laurens Herboz opting to stand out of the kart. And there is Jakob Bezel on the left-hand side of the screen. Yesterday we had 3 different winners from 3 different heats. Bezel took the win in heat number 3. Mats-Johan Overhoff, who starts from 4th on the grid behind Laurens Herboz, took the win in heat 2 after there were some penalties issued post-race. But Laurens Herboz started off the weekend in the right way, taking pole position in qualifying, and then went on to comfortably win the opening heats. But this is the premier class in Rotax competition. 2-speed gearbox, mated to a Rotax Max Evo 125cc engine. So 60 seconds to go until we release our drivers for the next superheat. As they say, it is the calm before the storm. These drivers have also been very, very competitive over yesterday's racing. So the green flag waves at the end of the dummy grid as our DD2 and DD2 Masters competitors head out on track for their 12-minute plus 1 additional lap superheat. And with that, let's take you through the starting grid. Jakob Bezel will start from pole position. Belgium's Laurens Herboz will line up alongside on the front row. Nicolas Guillaume and Mats-Johan Overhoff will be alongside each other on row number 2. Louis Koch and Marcel Schirmer, who makes a welcome return to competitive action with the FM Racing crew, ran by father and son duo, Christian and Maxi Fleischmann. Maxi, a former competitor in DD2, not just in European and domestic competition, but also at the Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals for Team Germany. Kian de Brandt, Kirstens, Axel Hoos and William Norbeek are next up. Head of Bennett Demmler, Benjamin Unterberger from Austria, Maximilian Adolf, Marco Tredenpreis, Mark Schuppmann, Jan Eckstein, Ricardo Messina and Wim Rulo brings up the rear of the grid. Mats-Johan Overhoff, one of many drivers that have also taken the plunge with the Rotax Project E20, and has also been, I think if I remember correctly, in history, Mats-Johan Overhoff is the first ever German World Electric Karting Champion, if you can put it that way. And I have to give a shout out to a good friend of his and a good friend of mine, Spencer Braun. They were battling each other in the sands of Bahrain back in, I think it was I'm trying to remember, I think it was 2023, to be honest with you. And Matt was also dovetailing that with DD2. And the reason being is that both Project E20 and DD2 both have front and rear brake systems. But Mats is now fully concentrated, was third in last year's German Rotax Max Challenge. Narrowly missed out at that time on a ticket for the Grand Finals, but then obviously with good friend of his, Nikita Genza, ending up winning 2 respective titles, had the pick, I think, of which championship he'd go with, and then, well, Mats ended up getting a ticket and then ended up going to Sarno last year. Of course, Bahrain will be the setting once again for the third time in 5 years, funnily enough, for the Grand Finals in early December of 2025. But so, into the tram lines. Here's the Mind Games. Revs up, lights on, lights out. And we are underway. And it's going to be a good start from the pole sitter, Jakob Bezel. Nicolas Guillaume gets up the inside of Laurens Herboz as two Kraft Motorsport teammates get very close together. Marcel Schirmer was hoping for a better turnaround. Mats-Johan Overhoff on the inside of Louis Koch and remains ahead, but bumps over the curbs to turn number 5 early doors. So this, and funny enough, I've been staying at the same hotel as Marcel Schirmer, and he said, yeah, hopefully I'll get a better day today. Marcel is also the man that runs a famed circuit in Western Germany, about an hour and a bit north of Mettmann in the suburbs of Düsseldorf. If you know this circuit, Motordrome Hagen. But it's good to see him back in competition. 5-bomb attempt up the inside through at turn number 10. But we come across the line to complete lap number 1. Jakob Bezel has got a big advantage early doors. And that is just under 1.1 seconds ahead of Nicolas Guillaume. Laurens Herboz, Mats-Johan Overhoff, Louis Koch rounds out the top 5. Schirmer, top speed recorded so far. Axel Hoos, 117 kilometres an hour. That's just north of the national speed limit in the United Kingdom, which is 70 miles an hour. Axel Hoos trying to get one up on Wout Kerstens, who also looked to move up the inside of Scheepers Racing's very own Kian de Brandt from Belgium in the 450. And Schirmer is just ahead of him at the moment. Absolute best opening sector by Nico Guillaume. Jakob Bezel, absolute best sector 2. And Bezel, one of 2 Czech Republic drivers who were dominant in European Rotax competition in the late 2010s for the Rotax Max Challenge Euro Trophy. And some drivers have come all the way from Cremona in Italy as the Rotax Euro Winter Series took place last week. So some people have been on the road for probably the best part of at least a fortnight. So at the moment, with the final intermediate classification, as things stand at the moment, with the first 3 heats taken into consideration, Jakob Bezel on 207, Nico Guillaume on 193, Laurens Herboz drops down to 3rd on 192, Mats-Johan Overhoff. Oh, and Marcel Schirmer's been turned around, and he's been clattered into by the 466 Wout Kerstens. Oh, that's a real shame for Marcel. It's the slightest of touches. And I think, it looked like it might have been a little bit of a contact on his left rear by the right front bumper of Axel Hoos, and it turned Schirmer into a spin. That's a real shame. And that puts Marcel right to the back end of the field. And Louis Koch now puts in the fastest lap of the race, 56.048. That's more like it. And more to the point, Laurens Herboz is battling away with Nico Guillaume. Nico, who's won a multitude of titles and has represented the Red Devils, Team Belgium, over the last few years in DD2. But Jakob Bezel has a lead of 1.4 seconds in the meantime over Guillaume. Herboz right with the 416 from SP Motorsport. So, purple sector from Herboz and the final sector of the track. Marco Drittenpreis has just pumped in the fastest lap of the race with no purple sector across the board, 55.843. And in the meantime, Laurens Herboz has now got through on Nicolas Guillaume. for second place. Well, Louis Koch and Mats-Johan Overhoff could very well be catching them very, very shortly. Well, Koch has really got the wind underneath his side pods. I would say wings, but then we need local air traffic control to clear him for takeoff on that one. So we're coming up to just over 7 minutes remaining on the clock, plus an additional lap. Helman Paro cheering on with Kirstens. Lover Carrot going go, 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 Vim. And, well, Marcel Schirmer's turnaround and then further contact means that the 444 from FM Racing has had to retire, I'm afraid. As we hit 7 minutes to go on the clock, plus an additional lap. And another fastest lap by Marco Tredenpreis. He's averaging improvements all the way over the course of the lap. So doing 3 personal bests, but not doing a purple sector. So that shows a good sign of consistent pace that, that Marco Tredenpreis has. Biggest movers up the order. I'm going to say 3 because 3 of them have moved up 7 places each. Marco Tredenpreis started 14th, now runs 7th. Mark Schupman up from 15th, now 8th. Wim Rouleau up from last, now 11th. As we are coming down to the final, we're about to hit half-time. As Marco Tredenpreis, I have to give a shout-out to Danny Brandt from Brand Racing. Normally whenever I see Tony Hogg coming over to race here in continental Europe, that's the only time I tend to see that race overalls on that man. But yeah, Marco Tredenpreis, Jensen Howard, who competed in the Belgian Max Challenge last year, made a guest appearance. But a good battle here between Axel Hoos and Marco Tredenpreis for what is 6th on the field at the moment as we head into another lap coming up. We'll be completing lap number 7. So, Jakob Bezel leads by 1.1 seconds. Fastest lap of the race has been done by the man in second position, Lawrence Herboz, 55.484. And then it's Guillaume, Koch and Overhoff rounding out the top 5. Hoos, Tredenpreis, De Brandt, Schupman, Norbeek, Kirstens, Rouleau, Eckstein, Demler, Adolf, Unterberger and Ricardo Messina being the last of the 17 out of 18 drivers that are still on the circuit as we speak. Still possibility for some battles to really start heating up, and there is going to be a battle brewing. I see it in front of me as they came out of turn number 11. That was Nico Guillaume, Louis Koch and Mats-Johan Overhoff. And the gap between them last time around was about 8.5 tenths of a second. It's now just under 7 tenths. Axel Hoos has got Marco Tredenpreis wanting to get past him. And sometimes with Axel, that can be easier said than done. So 2/3 of the race time completed, 1/3 to go. And I get a feeling that the Jaws music is going to start burning its imprint into my eardrums, because Koch is closing in on Guillaume for that 3rd spot. They both get a good run out of turn number 11 and into turn 12, as does Mats-Johan Overhoff. Koch has got the opportunity of using the slipstream over the start-finish line and to try and get through. And he was just over 0.22 of a second behind the Belgian. And then also an overtake has just occurred. That was William Norbeek on Mark Schupman. Mark Schupman, one of the newest members of one of the latest teams to join the grid, Flamix Racing. And run by a former driver, and they have gone with Kart Republic machinery. And well, Flamix, the thing is, there is a bit of pink in the livery, and they do have as part of their logo something that you would normally see in big flocks with big wings and big tails. Of course, flamingos. But it's added a nice little bit of additional colour to the grid. Laurens Herboz, another new fastest lap of the race, 55.399. And did an absolute best sector 1 out of anybody. And then personal bests over sectors 2 and 3. So there is still an opportunity for third to be settled out on track, because Jakob Bezel got an early advantage. But looking at the lap times, Bezel has responded with the absolute best in the opening sector and goes across the line. And I cannot believe this. Once again, Laurens Herboz has gone purple in terms of actual lap time. Mats-Johan Overhoff looking for a move up the inside of teammate Louis Koch for Cub Motorsport. So 55.318 is the fastest lap of the race. Bezel was only a tenth slower, might I add to that, so not too much of an inroad made by Herboz. As Koch looks over the right shoulder, sees Overhoff there. As the drivers make their way through out of turn number 9, that's the leaders, and now the remainder of the top 5. Overhoff dived onto the curbing on the inside of turn 5, turn 9, to try and rotate the kart a little bit more easily. So we're going to go on to 2 laps remaining. So lap 12 completed, 14 laps scheduled race distance based on the pace these drivers have shown. And 3rd, 4th and 5th are now half a second apart from front to back. And another successive fastest lap of the race by Laurens Herboz, 55.231, and he's gone purple again in sector 1. This is a very, very convincing performance by the Belgian. He's run with Huvin Power for quite a few years and is showcasing his opportunity to try and go against one of the very best in the world. So timer has expired. Last lap board will be out this time. And Bezel's lead is now 0.7 of a second and closing. And Laurens Herboz, another new fastest lap. That's 4 on the trot there for the Belgian. 55.221. He was nearly a tenth and a half quicker than the man in front of him. Once they cross the first timing beam, we'll get an indication of how much that distance has dropped. And, well, Bezel has brought it back into his favour. Gap's now gone up to 0.8 of a second. And they are now coming in towards turn 10 for the 14th and final time. Not including, of course, the sighting and formation lap before the racing got underway when the lights went out at the first time of asking. But Jakob Bezel will provisionally book himself on pole position for the final later on at 2:10 local time, winning ahead of Laurens Herboz. Nicolas Guillaume takes 3rd. Mats-Johan Overhoff manages to make the move in the last lap of the race to overtake teammate Louis Koch for 4th place. Marco Tredenpreis, 8 places gained. What a result there for the 474 representing Germany. Started 14th, finished in 6th place. Axel Hoos started 9th, finished in 7th, with Kian de Brandt 8th, William Norbeek, and Mark Schupman completing your top 10. Wout Kirstens, Bennett Demler and Jan Eckstein round out the top 13 finishers. Eckstein making up 3 places from 16th at the start. Wim Rouleau started from last position on the grid and finishes in 14th place. Was as high up as 11th at one point. Benjamin Unterberger 15th, Maximilian Adolf in 16th, Ricardo Messina 17th, and unfortunately on lap 2 we lost Germany's Marcel Schirmer after an incident at turn number 9. So it was a big hit for Marcel Schirmer. He not just got hit once, it was 3 times on the 444 from FM Racing. Jakob Bezel managed to scarper away. Nicolas Guillaume would not be able to fight back after Laurens Herboz got through on him. Herboz would then pull away to take second by about 2.5 seconds in his own right. And Michael Trevenprijs doing a wonderful manoeuvre on the inside of Axel Hoos onto the Europlan, but Jakob Bezel provisionally books himself on pole position for the final at 2:10 this afternoon local time. So we will very shortly turn our attention from DD2 Masters to Junior Rotax, one of the building block classes in the Rotax racing family. So a total of 37 drivers have ventured to the Limburg region of Belgium. We're around about 15 minutes away from the Dutch border. And the man there, front and centre on your screen, Max Swiderski, is the man that led the 37-strong field after the respective 3 qualifying heats yesterday. After time qualifying, where they competed in 2 groups, each driver took part in 2 from the 3 total heats yesterday, and Max Swiderski made the very, very best of it. Picked up in Heat 2, A versus C, 2nd position, and then went on to win the final heat of the day in Groups A versus B. Vince van der Hollen in the 210 is along to his left-hand side. We'll have 2 super heats for our junior competitors, and after that, well, we can only have 36 drivers on the grid, and it will be exactly the same for senior Rotax a little bit later on. Seniors with the biggest contingent here this weekend, a total of 41 drivers. But Max Swiderski moving on to SP Motorsport for 2025. Booked his place on Team Netherlands at Circuit de Lansard in Eindhoven last year, and went on to win the Chrono Karting Junior Max Rookie title. Also has been a multi-time BNL Karting Series champion in his own right, most notably in Minimax. Here's the circuit itself, Karting Genk. It's clockwise. It's been around since 1984. Track distance, 1,360 metres. Well, 13 corners. I've always known it as 12, but there we go. 13 turns around this clockwise circuit. But it evolved into the circuit it is now. It's hosted so many great competitions across the years, and it is a part and parcel. It's a mainstay of European and international karting. And it's a circuit that, funny enough, back in 2018, I ventured to this circuit in April that year and made my European karting commentary debut. And it's one, if anyone says to me, what's my favourite circuit? Here is where it feels like home. because I've lost count of the amount of races I've called at this track since April of 2018. So the 3-minute board and the horn has sounded in the dummy grid, clearing the mechanics over to keep a close eye on their drivers. So Natasha Vance wishing Rory Armstrong the very, very best of luck. Rory will be on the outside of the front row in Superheat B, coming up after this one. So the engines fire up in the dummy grid as our Superheat A Junior Max competitors leave the grid and make their way out onto the circuit. So let's take you through the starting grid for this 9-minute plus an additional lap Superheat. Max Swiderski starts from pole position. Vince van der Hollen will be alongside on the front row. Row 2, Lars Lambers and Luca van Leer. Bran van der Weken and Lenny Hobiolagash round out row 3. Lieke van Berkel will be joined by Germany's Maxime Becker on row 4. Completing the top 10 will be Lionel Munguia and Kimi Mai from the Netherlands and Germany respectively. Devrim Yater, Sebastian Brand, Nicolas Machon, Azmi Heiser, Mika Gentner, Boris Markovic, Sepp Terhorst, Emmer Siatkowska and Anton Koch rounding out the grid. So the track is definitely evolving at a very, very rapid rate. And that's good news for the racers. It's good news for you watching at home. And it's good news for everyone here watching with eagle eyes on this circuit. So 6 different nationalities being represented here this weekend. Denmark, France. Well, no, not Denmark. Germany, France, the Netherlands, Belgium and Switzerland. But one driver that really made an impact, especially in the latter part of yesterday, was Archie Lovett from Sam Pollitt Racing, who's going to be on pole position for Superheat B after this first one for Superheat A. And we've got some great competitors in the next one. And then once everything has been confirmed and ratified after sporting and technical matters have been concluded, then we'll know who will be moving on to the final. And then we have the real pomp and circumstance with the walking out to the start-finish grid, and then it's game on for who becomes our 2025 Champions Winter Trophy winners later on this afternoon. But the red lights are ignited on the starting gantry for Junior Max Superheat A here at Karting Genk. So, out into the tram lines, revs up, lights on, lights are out, we're underway for Superheat A. And it's the run down to turns 1 and 2. Max Swiderski, oh, well, he got one thrown up round the outside of him, and I think that might have been possibly Lars Lambers. Luca Van Leer has dived up the inside at turn number 3 and has got on the race lead, the youngster from SR Solutions. Great work there by the 284. Max Swiderski, I think, is down in around about 3rd or 4th position by my reckoning. But Luca Van Leer has already showcased that, well, I'm not here to make up the numbers. Change for 4th in the meantime. Looks to be Bran van der Weyken that has gotten through. And that was on the 204 of Lenny Robiolagash. Funnily enough, running with the Luhuk Racing Team. A team run by Arthur Luhuk, Williams Esports works driver, and also a competitive karter in his own right. After the opening lap, Luca Van Leer leads the way by half a second. Vince van Hollen and Max Swiderski ran at the top 3. Lars Lambers, Lenny Robiolagash, Maxime Becker, Sebastian Brand, Bran van der Weyken drops to 8th after the opening lap with Kimi Mai and Azmi Heiser, with the 2 Germans rounding out the top 10 at the moment. Swiderski gets through on Vince van der Hollen. We've got a yellow flag at Marshall post number 7, which means we've got a retirement, and that is GKS Lemons Power very own Nicolas Machon from Belgium out and is completely frustrated. You can just see by the body language there, he cannot believe what has just happened, and the emotions come flooding through. And Nicolas Machon coming into this was 25th in the intermediate classification. So Luca Van Leer continues to lead the way. Max Swiderski now through on Vince van der Holle. Lenny Robiolagash trying to get back past. I think that's Maxime Becker now in front of him from C4 Racing representing Germany. And hello to my good friend Mr. Conrad Bayer, a.k.a. Merlin 030363. I'm not going to mention what the last 6 digits stand for. Good morning, Alex and racing fans. Hot DD2 race. You betcha, Conrad. Patrick Verbis saying, come on, Bran van der Weyken, who's now down in 7th at the moment, ahead of Sebastian Brand. Lieke van Berkel and Kimi Mai continue to round out the top 10 at the moment. We have 6 minutes, 10 seconds plus an additional lap. And Luca Van Leer from SR Solutions, the team run by Scott Swart, is leading now by just under half a second. New fastest lap of the race by Vince van der Holle, Dutch champion in Minimax last year. And also, I think if I remember correctly, B&L Karting Series, I think he might have gotten the 3. Chrono Karting, BMC, Belgium X Challenge, and B&L. And straight away, made a debut in junior late last year, and is definitely not messing around at all. Wants to be competitive from the get-go. And Swiderski goes purple in sector number 2. And, yeah, sector 1 and sector 2. Max Swiderski on course to close that gap down to Luca Van Leer in the 284. And maybe go for a push for the lead. Fast approaching half-time very soon, in about 45 seconds. Mechanical black flag for 2. That's going to be, I think, 2.6. That's 2.66. Devin Mieta is going to have to park the cart, I'm afraid. Something, and oh well, he's gone old school. The front bumper is missing. Front bumper is missing, so the pedals and the driver's feet are exposed. The last time I saw a kart like that was Mogarish at Val d'Argenton for BNL back in 2022. No, not Val d'Argenton, Ostricourt. So another driver that runs a successful Rotax team, RM Concept, and also came back out of retirement after 10 years in 2021, won that year's RMC Golden Trophy, and then went on to win DD2 Masters ahead of fellow countryman Paul Louveau in the sands of Bahrain. And that year, Paul Louveau won the B&L Karting Series DD2 Masters crown. So the technical flag is still flashing for Devon Mieta. Lionel Munguia rounding out the last of the drivers out on the circuit, and will continue to do so once Devon Mieta pulls into the pit lane. So that bumper needs to be on there. That is a safety matter, and it's a high priority that that driver goes in. But in the meantime, Max Swiderski is very, very close to Luca Van Leer for the race lead, as Lenny Robiot-Lagache is now ahead of Bran van der Weyken and Maxime Becker. And good to see Paul Van Meeuwen saying good morning. Good morning, Paul. We're past the halfway point by quite a way now. Just over 3¼ minutes to go. And Luca Van Leer and Max Swiderski are less than 0.2 of a second apart. Swiderski thought about maybe going for the dive bomb up the inside at turn 2, but he's really hustling it coming out of turn 4. So more to the point, it is really the case of these drivers are, well, Max Swiderski's got the lead. Swiderski's now got the lead back into his possession. He lost it coming through turn 1, lap 1. And that just goes to show how quickly things can change. And he was very, very quick in comparison to Luca Van Leer, because he had the toe from behind, and that gave him the slingshot, gave him the opportunity, and he took full advantage. But don't count out the two karts closing in on them. Vince van der Hallen has picked up the pace. So has Lars Lambers. 2¼ minutes left to go on the clock, plus an additional lap. And Max Swiderski, this will keep him at the top of the standings. But let's not forget about one little factor that will play its hand into the final intermediate classification. That is the other 18 drivers that will be taking part in Superheat B. And that could throw the cat amongst the proverbial pigeons for a lot of drivers in Superheat A. So at the moment, Swiderski 169, Van der Hallen 151, Van Leer 140, Lambers 137, Van der Weyken 116, Robiot-Lagache 106. So the top 6, the only 6 drivers now in triple digits. And Swiderski crossed the line with just over a 2.5 of a second advantage over Luca Van Leer, and Van Leer is not giving this one up at all. So they fire their way through into turn 6. Swiderski now another new fastest lap to the youngster from the Netherlands, the 297, with the 56.379 second lap time. And that's exactly what Swiderski needed. Needed a fastest lap to keep Van Leer at bay, but Van Leer, let's be completely honest, did a 56.412. And over both first and second sector splits, Swiderski and Van Leer, well, Swiderski was the slightly quicker of the two. Not by much, but it was just over 1/10 of a second, 0.11. 2 laps to go, and Swiderski now leads by just over 3.5 tenths, going into what is now lap number 10 out of a scheduled 11. And they are not going to get round to do another lap before the last lap board is displayed. So we will have this and one more to go, as Boris Markovic drops out of the top 10, having been passed by Kimi Mai and Sebastian Brandt. So Markovic down into 11th position. He is the driver that has gained the most places at this moment in time. 5 places gained from 16th on the grid, and now runs a competitive 11th. But Brand and Markovic are going to be battling each other. They've got Azmi Heiser, who makes it three's a crowd. Timer has expired. Last lap is now getting underway as we speak. Max Siderski crossed the line, and he had a lead of just over 0.3 of a second. Luca Van Leer was fractionally quicker than him. And this is getting a bit too close for comfort. Siderski is now going to have to start defending, because Luca Van Leer from SR Solutions in the number 284 is closing right on in him. There's going to be a change a little bit further back. Vince van der Hollen and Lars Lambers now. Oh, they're battling between themselves. And what's more, they're from the same stable under the same awning. Max Siderski, however, at this moment in time, has done enough. But there's still a handful of corners to go. Anything is possible in karting, because there is that unpredictability factor that you have to put in for every single race these drivers go out on track. But out of the final corner, Max Siderski wins Junior Max Super Heat A, and it's going to be by a whisker. 0.271 of a second ahead of Luca Van Leer. Vince van der Holle takes P3. Lars Lambers 4th. Bran van der Weyken, Lenny Horbio Lagash ran at the top 6. Lieke van Berkel, Kimi Mai and Maxime Becker ran at the top 9. Completing the top 10, well, Boris Markovic made it stick on Sebastian Brandt and picked up the final position in the top 10. Brandt in 11th, Azmi Heiser 12th, ahead of Sepp Terhorst. Mika Gentner, Emir Sierkowska completes the top 15. With Lionel Munguia and Anton Koch rounding out the 17 finishers after 11 laps of racing. Unfortunately, well, Devon Mieta, the front bumper, having vacated the chassis and the scene of the crime, possibly, with 7 laps remaining. And, well, Nicolas Machon's race ended in an early finish, but also drama and heightened adrenaline-fueled emotion. So Max Siderski provisionally leads the final intermediate classification as the drivers now head to the weighbridge and have their front bumpers checked, as we are very soon getting underway with Superheat B. But Siderski lost out early to the likes of Vince van der Holle and Luca Van Leer. Van Leer then would go on to take the lead, but Max Siderski's perseverance and sheer self-belief maintained the fact that he would get through at some point and got the job done. And Luca Van Leer would close the gap on the youngster from the Netherlands. But Siderski's resolve stood fast, and he picks up the win in Superheat A. And next up, very soon, in a few minutes' time, we'll be getting underway with our last Superheat for Junior Rotax before we go on to Senior Rotax for their 2 Superheats. Up next, it's Superheat B for Junior Max.
Why do you come here? Is this your career?
Or is it all about fun? A chance to get away and leave it all behind?
Or do you chase your personal best? Challenging yourself over and over again. Why do you come here?
Maybe you're here to collect moments. Good ones. And not so good ones.
Or you can't afford mistakes because you want that victory. It's all about this one moment when the hard work finally pays off.
This is the place that brings us closer to the people who share our story. Whoever we are,
Whatever we're here for, racing is who we are.
Well, we are just 5 minutes away from our last superheat, Virginia Rotax, and there is your assembled contingent of 18 drivers. Archie Lovett to the left of your screen in the 288 Kart Republic chassis from Sam Pollitt Racing. Really put on a great show in yesterday's heats, as we are up next with Junior-Max Super Heat B. Of course, at this moment in time, Max Swiderski leads the final intermediate classification. But as I said in the previous race, there's one other factor we have to consider. There's another 18 drivers yet to score super heat points. 75 for a victory. And, well, if Archie Lovett puts in a win on this race, that will put him... He's currently on 91 points. You add 75 to that, you get 166. Rory Armstrong, a Grand Finals champion in his own right, has now moved over to Dan Holland Racing, run by multi-time British karting champion and one of the greatest team managers that I know of, who I've got to know very, very well since my tenure in commentating, not just in Europe, but also in the UK, also internationally. And, of course, there's been the new developments with regards to upgrades for the karts this year. Of course, with the likes of OTK Cosmic, the LN4 chassis. There you see Rory Armstrong, the youngster from County Down in Northern Ireland, made the switch to DHR early this year. Actually, just a handful of weeks ago, in fact. But he's really found his feet in a team with a great atmosphere, and he's really enjoying it, and he's being mechanicked by his dad, Andy. And I'm sure Orla, Rory's mum, and Ryan, I'm sure you're probably at home watching as we speak. So I hope you're both keeping well. But there's a really big, wonderful atmosphere over here in at Karting Genk. Great to catch up with so many familiar faces that I've known and got to know over the years and become friends with. And that's the thing. Motorsport is a family. We all play our part in this. You know, let's take it from a gearbox analogy. We're all a little cog trying to help the gearbox push that engine that little bit faster, that little bit further forward. And it's great. The amount of times, you know, these drivers leave their racing on the track and everyone is, you know, everyone makes friends. And that's the beauty of karting. You make friendships for life in this paddock. And I definitely have done. But it is going to be a very, very ultra-competitive sharp end of this Junior Max field. 37 drivers arrived here at Karting Genk when we got underway with time qualifying yesterday morning. And 36 will go through to the final. That's scheduled to take place at 2:35 p.m. And there we see a couple of the drivers at the back part of the field. Max Ongzik on the left-hand side of your screen in the 222 Prague. Then the 211 Tony Kart to your right. That's Ryan Rivers from the Netherlands. Julius Fumstück there on the Paralin, the number 251. You've also got the 224 of Vic van Kampenhout. For many a year, very competitive driver in minis, and now has moved up. He's part of a dad and lad operation, mechanic by Father Steve. But once again, we'll be going racing very shortly for another 9 minutes plus an additional lap, and then we'll get onto the business end of the Superheats with 2 12-minute plus an additional lap Superheats for Senior Rotax here at the Home of Champions. And the sunshine continues to bathe this circuit in its radiant warmth. Blue skies up ahead. A couple of clouds here or there, but very, very light, let's say. So the drivers make their way out of the dummy grid for Superheat B for Junior Max. And let's take you through your starting grid as the mechanics head their way to the viewing gantry off of turn number 13. It's Archie Lovett from Sam Pollitt Racing on pole position. Dan Holland Racing's Rory Armstrong rounds out the front row. Tom Reger from Germany and Thomas Verheyen from Belgium rounds out row 2. Philip Hansler joined by the UK's Samir Paul on row 3. Alex Goodson and Sebastian Lersch round out the next row with Boris Verhaag and Bodine Blankenberg next up. They round out the top 10. Luan Seidel and Justin Fonk complete row 6. Emil Müller and Vic van Kampenhout next up, with Koen Willems and Julius Fumstück rounding out the penultimate row of the grid, and Ryan Rivers and Max Ongzik completing the 18-strong field. And look at how dry the track has become. A little bit of surface water, not standing water, bit of a difference on that one. But drivers now able to use slick tyres, and I'm sure they're very, very happy that that is the case. So we head on to the official formation lap here for this last super heat, not super final, what? I nearly got my words mixed up there. Super heat for Junior Max, and then we go into seniors. A big thank you to over 290 people currently watching the stream. We've hit over 320 so far this morning. And of course, we'll be carrying things on this afternoon after the lunch break. Once things have the dust has settled and then everything has been decided. We've already had the final intermediate classification for Minimax confirmed, which I'll go through a little bit later on. But it is time to go racing once again here as the drivers for Superheat B are getting ready to rock and roll here at the Home of Champions. 9 minutes plus an additional lap on the clock. And Charlotte, thanks for your well wishes for Alex Goodson. As the field now concertinas and gets ready to be in their 2x2 rolling start. So, red lights on the gantry, out of the final corner, into the tram lines. It's going to be a full start. Race director Manuel Branco is going to send them around again for another time. So, not entirely happy with the formation, even if it's the slight variance. Thanks, Orla, for the message on Facebook Messenger. Watching nervously at home. Well, hopefully I'll see you in a couple of weeks for the first round of the B&L karting series in a fortnight's time. So, first full start has been called of the day. We only had 1 or 2 yesterday, so there's your starting grid. And Luan Seidel, the only Swiss representative here as a driver this weekend, but has had a fair share of peaks and troughs, and by that I mean there's been some dramas along the way. However, this is the opportunity for these drivers to book their place, one of 36 spots on the grid. But who can bring the fight to Max Siderski in the final later on? Well, we've got this superheat to decide who will be moving forward and who will be having an early end to their race weekend. So we've gone past the red line of no return, and the red lights are back on the gantry. The yellow flashing amber light for the full start indication has been vanquished. Out of the final corner, revs up, lights on, and the lights are out, we're underway. So a good start there by our front row, and Archie Lovett gets the initial advantage. Tom Ritt, oh, bit of a drama, 2-3-6. Oh, that's Sebastian Lersch, and also 2-1-2. Germany's Philipp Hansler having a big old drama coming out of turn number 2. And when they get a bit too close for comfort, you get that squeezing feeling if you're in a kart, and then all of a sudden one tap on a wheel or a bumper or a part of bodywork, and then all of a sudden it goes horribly wrong. Tom Reger now has got the lead, so Reger is through for the race lead on the opening lap, has got through on Archie Lovett. Rory Armstrong is currently sitting in 3rd position and has got Thomas Verheyen not too far behind, the driver for NR Trommelke. Armstrong goes defensive. It looks like we've got the charge of the light brigade from behind. Alex Goodson now up into 5th. Armstrong dives to the move up the inside of Archie Lovett. Oh, and he tangles and Armstrong spins! Armstrong has spun at turn 2. He went for the lunge and it was way too late. And there's more drama coming out of turn number 3 and into 4. Oh, the cat amongst the pigeon situation has well and truly been activated. And Rory Armstrong went for the move on Archie Lovett, and it just all went horribly wrong. He tagged the right rear of Lovett with his left, well, the right rear with his left front bumper, and then all of a sudden, I think he might have just got squeezed from behind, and then Armstrong went around. Didn't really catch the back end of it, but that has just shown how quickly things can change. So we're about to complete lap number 2 of this race. Tom Reger versus Archie Lovett, and they are clear away in the distance. Thomas Verheyen in 3rd. Alex Goodson now 4th. Vic van Kampenhout up 9 places. Oh, well, proficiat Vic. He's up 9 places from 14th. He's now 5th. Emil Müller up from 13th on the grid, as Lovett and Reger are going for the race lead, and Lovett is going to get through. He's got through on Reger, so Archie Lovett retakes the lead over 2/3 of the way through lap number 3. And Rory Armstrong finds himself all the way down at around 14th position. And what's more, that has put him outside of the top 8 in the final intermediate classification. It's not what Armstrong needed, but now Lovett is starting to pull away from Tom Hedger on the Energy Corsa chassis. And here goes Alex Goodson on the inside of Vic van Kampenhout. And they are still trading places. Van Kampenhout, I think, has just got the switchback done on him. Thomas Verheyen, new fastest lap of the race, 57.169. And good morning, Brandon Klein Nagelvor. It's another one of the Dan Holland Racing Massive in chat. 5.5 minutes to go, and Archie Lovett has definitely made sure he's making it count. And he's now on 166 points because he's leading the race. Thomas Verheyen, however, might be 1.5 seconds off of P2, but Thomas Verheyen, when he was a Minimax driver... okay. Voss Gaming Crew, what place was Bran? Well, Bran van der Weyken at the moment isn't in the top 8. I only see the top 8. Rory Armstrong has now recovered. He's got up 4 places and now back into the top 10. And he's moved up to 8th in the intermediate, the final intermediate classification. So I would probably say Bran van der Weyken might be top 10. I'm not sure, Voss Gaming Crew, but thank you for asking. So we are halfway through this race, and Archie Lovett is pulling away. The 288 from the United Kingdom with Sam Pollitt Racing is making sure that things are going to go his way. Thomas Verheyen has got through on Tom Hedger, and that is now second for the Belgian. He is on absolute fire, is the 282 for NR Trommelke. But Lovett leads after 5 laps, and his lead is 1.3 seconds. Alex Goodson has got through on Vic van Kampenhout to retake 4th place. So Alex Goodson, a teammate of Rory Armstrong, and Armstrong at the moment is closing in on Emil Müller. Might have just actually got through on him. And the next target on his list will be Badin Blankenberg. No problem at all, Voss Gaming Crew. You're more than welcome. It's one wonderful thing of, you know, if you lot want to throw me a question in chat, as long as it's relating to this event and it's PG, we're good. We're fine. But biggest mover at the moment, Vic van Kampenhout, 9 places gained. Ryan Rivers up from 17th on the grid, now is currently running P12. But Archie Lovett is starting to pull that gap a little bit further. Nearly 1.3 seconds. Move on happening. That is 2.38. And that is Boris Verhaag through Onduan Seidel from Switzerland. That's a change for 6th position. And Rory Armstrong now is 9th. And he is 1.4 seconds behind Badin Blankenberg. So, if Rory keeps on... Well, he's putting in personal best. Boris Verhagen has just put in the absolute best first sector of anybody. He's the son of my boss. Okay, well, there we go, Voss Gaming Crew. Thank you very much for that info as well. So, at the minute, final intermediate classification, provisional as it stands at the moment. Max Sidursky, 166. Archie Lovett, 169. Archie Lovett, 166. Vince van der Holle drops to 3rd. Luca van Leer, 4th. Tom Hedger currently in 5th. Level on points with Lars Lambers, but it will go to countback. And also with Thomas Verheyen. And then Rory Armstrong rounding out the top 8 on 124. And Armstrong's just put in the fastest lap of the race. 56.414. Yeah, 268 from County Down in Northern Ireland. Ajim Shamlal, yes, seniors will be next. We'll have Superheat A, then we'll have Superheat B. So, yeah, we have got seniors up next. Superheat A, Superheat B, and then we'll be going to the lunch break, and then we'll be back for the finals later on. So, if you are watching on YouTube, there's a link for the live timing. Click on that link and it will tell you what race is next. So, minute and 13 to go, plus an additional lap. Rory Armstrong, another fastest lap of the race, and he is on the verge of trying to go for 8th position. He's right with Badine Blankenberg, I believe. No, that's not him. That is actually Alex Goodson, who's battling away with Boris Verhagen and Vic van Kampenhout. So Rory Armstrong has just put in a 56.262. Black and white warning flag for Philipp Hansler in the 2:12 from Germany, currently running 11th. And that is, good to see. Vako Kovahidze cheering on Rory Armstrong. Vako, hope you and Mate are keeping well. Hopefully catch up with you very soon. 30 seconds to go, so we're going to have one and one more remaining. And Archie Lovett has put a stamp on this Superheat Superheat B, to fire a warning shot across the bow of everyone that he's going to be battling with. And he'll be side by side with Max Swiderski. Meantime, there is a change. Boris Verhagen through on Vic van Kampenhout. There's Alex Goodson. And I think there's also Luan Seidel. Rory Armstrong, fastest lap of the race, 56.248. He went purple in Sector 1. Personal best in Sector 2. Sector 3 wasn't that great. But he's having to negotiate his way through traffic as well, and when you're trying to close in clean air, and you've got no slipstream in front of you, believe you me, in carts like these, you're going to have a very, very difficult time. Luan Seidel tries to look to the outside. I think that was Boris Verhagen. Alex Goodson has got through. Final lap underway for our last Superheat B for Junior Max. And the gap is now closing half a second between Archie Lovett, who leads, and Thomas Verheyen, who is in 2nd position. Then we got Tom Reger, Boris Verhagen, and Rory Armstrong has now moved up into 7th position. A great recovery for the driver from Northern Ireland. Had a great catch up with him and his dad Andy on Friday night, despite the fact I was not feeling bright-eyed and bushy-tailed that evening. But it's really closing up things. 39 points separate the top 8 in the final intermediate classification provisionally as it stands. But it is going to be one driver that is going to try and bring the fight to Max Swiderski in the final later on. And that driver comes out of the final corner. Sam Pollitt Racing's Archie Lovett wins Superheat B in great fashion. Great prowess for the youngster from the United Kingdom. Thomas Verheyen, don't count him out either. Tom Reger from Germany puts his 2 cents into the ring by finishing 3rd. Boris Verhagen, Alex Goodson round out your top 5. Vic van Kampenhout, the biggest gainer of the race, 14th to 6th. Rory Armstrong started on the outside of the front row, turned around at turn 9 on the early couple of laps of this race, recovers to finish in 7th. Ahead of Badine Blankenberg. Luan Seidel and Justin Funk round out the top 10. Ryan Rivers 11th with Philipp Hansler from Kraft Motorsport representing Germany, completing the top 12. Koen Willems, Samir Paul, Max Ongzik, Emil Müller and Julius Fünfstück round out the 17 finishers, and unfortunately Sebastian Loesch out early doors. And that means we have 3 points between Max Swiderski and Archie Lovett. And what does that mean? Those 2 drivers will be on the front row of the grid if the results stay as they are. And more to the point, well, that concludes Junior Max action for the Superheats. Next up, we've got our first of 2 Superheats for Senior Max. But let's take a look back through that race. Now, Rory Armstrong went wheel to wheel very early. Tom Reger got through, and then there was a little bit of a drama for Sebastian Loesch, whose race ended at turn 2. And then we had the 2-1-2 of Philipp Hansler turned around. Tom Reger then dived into the lead, having got through. But then it was at turn 2, and, well, I think there was a little bit of an assist behind Rory Armstrong that meant that the 268 went into a little bit of a spin at turn 2. Reger would then take the lead off of Archie Lovett, and Lovett would then respond back by overtaking him just a handful of laps from the end of the race through turns 6 and 7. Alex Goodson has also shown good account of himself over the course of the race itself. Thomas Verheyen, with a handful of laps to spare, would then get through on Tom Hedger at turn 10. And there were battles up and down the order. And more to the point, it was just a case of, let's use the slipstream. That was exactly what we saw with Boris Verhaeg getting through on Alex Goodson. But it was more a case of drivers using the slipstream to their optimum here at the Home of Champions. But when all was said and done, it was more a case of who got there first, who took the victory. Well, Sam Pollock Racing's Archie Lovett did the business as he meant to. And that's how it's meant to be done. Once again, there is the circuit, the host of the Champions Winter Trophy. Clockwise, 1,360 metres in length. And then also the fact there's 13 corners. Coming up very shortly, folks, we're going to be getting underway with our penultimate super heats of the 2025 Champions Winter Trophy at 12:05. For 12 minutes plus an additional lap, it's going to be Senior Max Super Heat A very shortly. So we return trackside as it's just 5 minutes to go until our first of two Senior Max Super Heats for the 2025 Champions Winter Trophy. Thank you so much to everyone joining us on the official live stream on the B&L Karting Series YouTube channel. If you get a chance, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And share the stream as well on social media. It's doing the rounds at the minute. And a big thank you to our live stream partners, WFR Live TV, providing all the glorious images you see in both wonderful coloured vision and sound. And there we see a few of our competitors, including the person that was the intermediate classification leader on the left-hand side of your screen. That is Thijs Stevens from the Netherlands, the 382. Last year competed for the final time in his last season as a junior Rotax driver. Also went on to represent the Dutch Lions, Team Netherlands. So 41 Senior Max drivers joined us here this weekend. And after this, and our second Super Heats, which will bring us nicely to the lunch break, 5 drivers will no longer be competing for the prestigious opportunity to become the Champions Winter Trophy Senior Max winner. Of course, the Champions Winter Trophy, first time it hit the tarmac here at Karting last year, and it really does help give the drivers an opportunity to add another race to their calendar. There is the pride of Scotland, Lewis Gilbert from Dolroy in Ayrshire, and also one of the main people behind the UK arm of Kraft Motorsport, run by Kilian Kraft, who I've got to know very, very well over the years. Still remember Lewis in his days as a junior back in 2018, but he still loves this circuit. He's had many a great race here, and he's competed against the very, very best. So 3-minute board goes out. Mechanics now informed to clear the grid. And the horn sounds. But perfect conditions for racing here at the Home of Champions. Well, for Futura Party and Seasonal Shop, we'll try and see if I can get Lewis to give you a wave in the final later on, and that will be taking place at 3 p.m. Local time here in Belgium. If you're watching from, well, if you are watching from Portugal, which is on the same time zone as the UK, that will be at 2 p.m. local time. So great to see all the wonderful different bits of colour here on the grid. As we are just over a minute away. And there you see on the left-hand side of your screens, the folks at home, that is the Flamix Racing 383 I've just spotted. Kiddo Genza. So there is a kart missing. That is 6th on there. So that would be behind Lewis Gilbert's. Nick, that's exactly who I'm trying to work out at the moment. That could be... I've got a feeling that's Crick Noren. Crick Noren, 372, is the missing individual on the grid, and I think I've just heard some radio chatter that he might have to start from the repair area. Crick Noren, unfortunately excluded post-qualifying yesterday for a non-compliant carburettor, but came fighting back through the field. So the drivers head out onto the circuit. Let's take you through the starting grid for Senior Max Superheat A, scheduled to take place over a duration of 12 minutes plus an additional lap. It's actually Julian Klosman, so it's 373. So Dave Stevens starts from pole position. Lewis Gilbert will be alongside him on the front row. Jack West, newcomer to seniors, made his senior debut actually at Clay Pigeon Raceway last year in late last year, after coming out to Genk for his final hurrah as a junior. He starts P3. The very fast young French driver from Dams Racing, Tom Langlois, will line up on the outside of row number 2. Mateo Nedenkovic lines up on the inside of row 3, due to have Julian Klosman alongside, but Klosman unable to start from the rolling start itself, so if they get that kart ready in time, can start from the dummy grid. The formation lap now underway. Alex Eamon, Enes de Mikaya next up, ahead of Luca Brima and Jim Buck, who ran at the top 10. Sasha Eamon, Dean Winters ran at row 6, ahead of Flynn Fitters and Rein van der Meer. Tim van Elswijk rounds out 15th, ahead of Alexander Rasmussen. They round out row 8. Kirill Genza and Gavril Svitala, row 9. Top 20 completed by Bo Alvarez and Kimi Schleich, with Nathaniel Weigand rounding out the 21-strong grid. And, right, who was saying about Tim van Elswijk? Trying to remember who that was in the chat, so I'm just going to have a look at the moment. Well, someone did mention that. I'm not too sure if the comment has been retracted, but Tim's definitely got a very, very colourful comp kart. Believe in the fluoro, as Henry Baudet once said at the grand finals in Sarno for Minimax, because Comp Kart were the official kart suppliers for that class that year. I should know. I was alongside him in the commentary box. So shout out to Henry. He's currently over in Phoenix, Arizona for Rotax US Trophy West action. But here at the Home of Champions, the red lights are on the starting gantry. Ahead of 12 minutes plus an additional lap. Dave Stevens leads the way. Lewis Gilbert currently third in the standings on 84 points. Ollie Yonkers will start from pole position in Superheat B after this one. But we're revved up, ready to go racing for the penultimate Superheat of the event. So, out of the final corner, into the tram lines, revs up, lights on, lights are out. We're underway and racing. And it's the run down to turns 1 and 2. Gilbert fires it right round the outside. He's not messing around, is the man from Scotland. And what's more, Tate Stevens is in second. Then I think you've got, you got Jack West definitely in the mix. But he's been passed by Tom Langlois. So Langlois now up into P3. But Gilbert just using his track knowledge and threw it round the outside. Did the old Slim Shady. Oh, Langlois just made a bit of a bit of a mistake, a bit of a faux pas, so to speak, going into turn 6 and 7. Outbraked himself, and Dave Stevens able to retake second position. But Gilbert is not waiting to find out if anybody's going to challenge him. And if Lewis Gilbert gets this as a race victory, that will put him on 159 points, which it does now. Tay Stevens 163, so it's got to be down to the likes of Tom Langlois and Jack West to maybe bring the Dutch driver down a peg or two in terms of the ranking. So Julian Klosman is the one who's trying to close in on everybody in front, and Tay Stevens is not going to lose 1 but 2 places before turn 6. Tom Langlois and also Jack West have gotten through. And Mateo Radenkovic sets the absolute fastest first sector of anybody. Gilbert sector 2. And this now means that Langlois goes up to 137. Gilbert goes to second in the final intermediate classification on 159. But it's going to change. And Gilbert now takes the provisional lead in the final intermediate classification. Of course, like I say, when you have 2 superheats, you've got to factor in that there is another race after you. So the more that drivers can do to get past Dave Stevens, the more it's going to help Lewis Gilbert. But then they're also going to help themselves in a way, if you see what I'm talking about. And so more to the point, Jack West has just gone purple in sector number 1. And hello to Matthias Verdaken. Yep, whilst at the track, get your smartphone or your tablet out and watch the stream. We know there's plenty of people here. Julian Klosman has just put in the fastest lap of the race, 54.940. So it's the race that could have been, possibly, for Julian Klosman. But Lewis Gilbert is pulling away. Second is now Langlois. Third is Jack West. Mateo Radenkovic sets the new fastest lap of the race. And Gabriel Svitala has just been shown the meatball flag, the technical flag. So that's a real shame there for the 379. Gabriel Svitala has to park that car within 3 laps. And Langlois is going to try and see if he can start hunting down Lewis Gilbert. There's plenty of time for him to do that. There's 8 minutes and 40 plus 1 lap still to go for him to do that. Langlois has just gone purple in sector 1. Gilbert's responded with the absolute fastest second sector. That's just been bettered by the driver in 5th, Mateo Radenkovic. Flynn Fitters has improved over the first 2 opening sectors out of 3. But Gilbert is just going to calmly get on with the race that he needs to run. And that's to stay in front of everybody else. Gap now down to 1.365. Langlois now sets the new fastest lap of the race, 54.583. Considering the fact we were running, in the 110s, 112s yesterday in the wet weather conditions, or in the ice rink conditions, let's say. But Taze Stevens finds himself now down into 5th position. So that means that Lewis Gilbert has a 14-point advantage over Taze Stevens, who was the ranking after heats leader. So thereby started on pole position for Super Heat A. Gilbert was third. But Gilbert just used, as I said, Gilbert used his knowledge of this track. He's done thousands, maybe tens of thousands of laps around this. Hasn't been here in recent times, but it's good to have him back here. So Lewis Gilbert's lead now goes down to 1.1 seconds. So still Langlois, West, Radenkovic, Stevens still running around the circuit in 5th place, ahead of Alex M and Esteban who is now running. Right, so we've had a cart has come to a stop and the driver is walking away from it. That, I would say, is more than likely Luca Brima in the 358. And that is just off the inside of turn number 5. But meantime, the chase is happening and Gilbert is still leading the way. Langlois is getting that gap down. It's just gone under a second now. 6.5 minutes to go. Gilbert leads. It's now 8.7 tenths of a second. West, Radenkovic, Stevens, Aim, Demonakaya, Sasha M, Jim Back, Rein van der Meer. They now round out your top 10. So it is Luca Brima. That is the kart that has unfortunately retired. So we're now on to our 7th lap. We now hit half-time in this race. And, well, Tom Langlois is fractionally quicker. Maybe by half a tenth, maybe by 0.6 of a tenth of a second. And fractionally quicker again in sector number 2. But it's not significant enough. But, however, there is one thing. I mentioned mechanical sympathy yesterday on the circuit commentary. I'm going to mention it again today, but also there's another thing the drivers have to consider. Tyre conservation. Because the thing is, if you keep the window of operation of these tyres in a longer state, which means you're not overdriving the cart to the point where the tyres fall off the cliff, you're effectively just trying to keep the lap times consistent. Don't overdrive. Don't go heavy on the brakes. Don't go heavy on the throttle. Steer smooth and concisely. Do the overcorrection, but if you absolutely need to, without any hesitation. So, right, warning flag has just gone out to the 305. Nathaniel Weigand from Germany has just, we'll see that on the Digi flag coming across the start-finish line. The driver for RTM Racing Team Margraf on the MS chassis. And Mateo Radenkovic has recorded the fastest indicated top speed, 111.7 kilometers an hour. That's around about 68 miles an hour. Move has happened between Mateo Radenkovic, who's got through at turn 5 on the Europlan, over Jack West as they go through the chicane at 6 and 7. Oh, and Jack West has just pulled off the circuit. Jack West went straight on at the entry point into turn 8. Oh, no. Jack West has suddenly broken down. And his opportunity to be at the sharp end of the grid. He was running 4th in the final intermediate classification before we'd even considered Super Heat B. Jack West's race has gone to pot with 4 minutes to go. It's gone completely wrong for him. That is a real shame. So that brings us down to 3 retirees. Meantime, Tom Langlois is trying to put the over-under on Lewis Gilbert. Nearly got the job done coming out of turn number 6. And that could be very, very good for a certain Mateo Radenkovic. And it is. I think it is. And more to the point, Gilbert is holding on. Langlois is trying to hustle the Scotsman along. And the Belgian in 3rd is waiting in the wings to pick up the pieces. The gap between the 3 of them last time around was 1.3 seconds. It's nigh on non-existent. Gilbert gets a possible little touch from behind, and Radenkovic gets through. It was 3 wide through the final corner. Radenkovic makes it work. Incredible there for the youngster from Belgium. Matej Radenkovic, who did a part-season campaign last year, revitalised, reinvigorated, and now firing on both barrels of the shotgun. And Lewis Gilbert is coming under pressure. And there's Taze Stevens. We've got a 4-way scrap with just over 2 minutes and 20 to go, plus an additional lap. Lewis Gilbert has been caught and passed. And now Taze Stevens has got through on him at turn 8. So Lewis Gilbert, for over 8.5, 9 minutes of this race, was leading comfortably. But it was the fact that Tom Langlois somehow had the pace to reel him in, hook, line and sinker, get the job done. But Matej Radenkovic beat the Frenchman to the punch. And now that's changed everything. Taze Stevens back to the top of the provisional intermediate classification, the final intermediate classification, that is, as we are on to just over 90 seconds, plus an additional lap remaining on the counter. I did say about the unpredictable nature of karting, and that's exactly case in point proved. But I did say the word unpredictable, didn't I? Never say never. Lewis Gilbert might have decided to keep the tyres for a lap or two, get them back into that window and go, right, you got past me, time for me to return the favour. But I think now it's about damage limitation for Lewis Gilbert. Just adjusted the radiator flap on the Potenza racing engine that's alongside him. Of course, the family business that he's very much involved in. Lewis spending a lot of time in the workshop as well these days, apart from just racing out on track. But we are into the final 30 seconds plus an additional lap of this race. And Matej Radenkovic, who now will move himself up provisionally to P4 in the final intermediate classification, with just one more superheat to go before we head to the lunch break. And did the buy one, get one free, 3 wide out of turn number 12, turn number 13. So got a really, really good run there. It's going to be close. Oh, and literally on the buzzer. On the buzzer, I think Matej Radenkovic, with about 1 second to spare, crossed the line. And so we got 2 laps to go. 15 laps. And now Lewis Gilbert starting to use his know-how, his experience. He switches to the outside of Taze Stevens. And has just dragged past the 382 from the Netherlands down the Europalan and goes onto the brakes through into turns 6 and 7 at the chicane. But Matej Radenkovic, the sooner he got the lead, he bolted. He just went and just said, right, see you later, guys. I'll see you at the finish. And that's exactly what he needed to do. So it's going to be out of the final corner. And it's a hometown hero. Matej Radenkovic picks up the win after 14 laps of racing. Tom Langlois takes second. Well, it's actually going to be the final lap. I've done that again. Sorry, my apologies there. I did it once yesterday. Matej Radenkovic is now clear by 1.5 seconds. Tom Langlois in second place. Lewis Gilbert in third now. He's trying to pull away from Taze Stevens. So they've swapped third and fourth place respectively. Alex Aim, Jim Back, Sasha Aim, Enes de Mercaya, Flynn Fitters, and Julian Klausmann, who's made it from the repair area to now round out the top 10. Get it right this time, Alex. Out of the final corner, it's going to be Matej Radenkovic after 15 laps of racing that takes the win. Great job there by the 396. Langlois second, Gilbert third, Stevens fourth, Alex Aim fifth. Jim Back for SR Solutions takes 6th position, but there is your race winner, Matej Radenkovic, the 396 from Belgium. doing a standout job there. So Julian Klausman rounds out the top 10. Tim van Elswijk but finishes in 12th behind Rein van der Meer, Kirill Genza, Alexander Rasmussen and Dean Winters round out your provisional top 15 finishers. Bo Algris, Kimi Schleich and Nathaniel Weigand round out the 18 finishers. Jack West with 4 minutes to go plus an additional lap pulled off to the runoff area on the left-hand side of the entrance to turn number 8, and he was running 4th at that time. A real shame for Jack West running with DHR. Luca Prima out, and also along with that Gabriel Civitala being the only driver to get the mechanical black flag. But Luca Prima's kart now being, the recovery vehicle is on the circuit as our 18 finishers make their way onto the weighbridge. But looking at the replay, the perfect start from the outside row, full-on Scottish Slim Shady from the Pride of Scotland, Lewis Gilbert, getting through early doors and made the move stick. There are some great battles here and there, up and down the order. A couple of drivers running wide, 3 wide at one point going into turn number 11. Some really, really good battles. Jim Back and Sasha Ain were battling away. But Lewis Gilbert's lead quickly was literally decimated by Tom Lanois. And then all of a sudden, Mateo Radenkovic made it not just 2's company, but 3's a crowd. And then Radenkovic would go through the final corner at turn number 13 and get the jump on the pair of them and would pull away to get the win. Lanois would then find his way with a handful of laps to go to get through. So would Tay Stevens, but then Gilbert fired back with a run up the Europalan. Stevens went a little bit deep into the corner. Gilbert had the inside line and went, thank you very much. But when the dust was settled at the checkered flag, Mateo Radenkovic makes it a win for a hometown hero. And there you see the circuit is in all its glory. The paddock a lot fuller than what it is now in this drone shot on the screens on the YouTube channel. But a wonderful circuit. I've had the opportunity actually back in 2020, April of 2022. I actually drove the Project E20 around this circuit, and I really get an understanding of how demanding it is. Now, I'm not exactly the fittest specimen in the world, I'll be honest with you, but it was an experience that the first circuit that I ever commentated on outside of the United Kingdom is here. It is a place that feels like home, and to do it in a class that I commentated on for actually quite a few years, it really does have a big place in my heart in terms of being able to come back here every year. I think it's 8 times I'm going to be here this year. That's a lot when you think about it. But it is a wonderful circuit, and for all of those drivers that are watching on the B&L Karting Series YouTube channel and you haven't gotten yourself over to the Home of Champions to have some track time over here, what stone are you still under? But more to the point, it is a true driver's track. And when I did that session, I spent the whole day, and then I had to drive home. So I was driving from here back to Calais, getting the Eurotunnel, and then driving a further 2.5 hours home. It was a case of, if I hadn't have taken up that opportunity, I probably would have kicked myself for not doing so. But as the track rubbers in, it really, really does give you confidence. But experience is one of the biggest things you can have at this circuit. And there you see, well, with the sun out, the blue skies up above, there's the grandstand. Come on, folks, give us a wave. Hopefully. I'm not going to start asking them to do a Mexican wave because we haven't got time for that at the moment. But it's great to see everybody here with us at the Home of Champions. And there's Ollie Yonkers from Dams Racing. His dad Davey has been very much a big hit on the après ski scene with the songs that he's been sending me links to. But Ollie, I've seen him come through the ranks, through juniors. He's really, really starting to find his form and find himself as a driver. And that's one of the big things when you look at the drivers that have moved up from junior to senior. I mean, I've seen Mike Van Vrucht, Kai Hillertz, Mads Rees. You get a shout out because I know you're here. I've seen so many drivers move up the ranks since 2018, and it's really, really wonderful to see their development. And Nick saying one of the best tracks in Europe. You're definitely right on that one, Nick. And there is one of the drivers from the team based at this very circuit who have had the likes of 2009. Now, this is an interesting statistic because I'm really worried why so many people don't say it. 2009 Formula One World Champion with Braun GP, and with Honda Team Kunimitsu, 2018 Super GT GT500 champion, Jenson Button, who also has a record in his own right. He's the winner of the longest ever Formula One Grand Prix held at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Canada in 2011, and won on the last lap because Sebastian Vettel made a slip-up on the penultimate chicane. But there we see the other 20 drivers here with us this weekend for Senior Max for Super Heat B, and 5 drivers after this from Senior Max will no longer be taking part in the Champions Winter Trophy. There is Noah Janssen in the Flamix Racing Kart Republic chassis, B&L Karting Series Junior Max champion from last year, and RMC Germany champion from last year. Quite a few other drivers with us here this weekend. And there's the 331. That is Jake Menton, always the stealth black on the front Nassau and the bumpers and the side pods. But a great variety of talent we've had here with us this weekend. Of course, there can only be one Winter Trophy champion later on. And the Senior Max Final, which will see the top 36 compete, will be at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Time for the last Super Heats of the 2025 Champions Winter Trophy. It's Senior Max Super Heat B, scheduled to take place over a duration of 12 minutes plus a lap. Let's take you through your starting grid. On the front row, from pole position, it's Ollie Jonkers. Sverre Ubben, his countryman, will be alongside on the front row. Luca Thiel and Luca Schlegel, representing Germany and Austria, round out row number 2. Noah Janssen and Robbie Stauder round out row 3. Krik Noren and Matthias Jaderup round out row 4. Completing the top 10, Lex Quintens and Ruben Verheyen, both representing the host nation, Belgium. Theo Lewagne from France will be joined by Jake Menton from the Netherlands on row number 6, with Philip Ennemark from Denmark and Jack de Kock from Belgium rounding out row number 7. Row 8, Magnus Brandt and Michael Endres. Miel Hendricks and Henry Melchior round out row 9, with Remy van Beek and Noah Montag completing the 20-strong grid. We now head onto the official formation lap. There you see, that is the starting grid for Super Heat B that have just gone through for you folks at home. So Jonkers on pole, Ubben alongside with Thiel and Schlegel, Stauder, Janssen, Stauder, Knoren, Jellerup, Quintens and Verheyen rounding out your top 10. Now, this is where we see the final intermediate classification come into effect. Now, the good thing is, a big thank you to, well, the thing is that we're using Apex timing, and the good thing is we get a running tally. Now, after this race, once the final intermediate classifications for all classes has been concluded, then the points are swept under the bridge like water. Sweep it under the carpet, out of sight, out of mind. And then it becomes winner take all. So at the minute, Dave Stevens leads the intermediate classification on 151 points. Lewis Gilbert second on 147. Tom Longnoir third on 143. Mateo Radenkovic, thanks to his win in Superheat A, ends up fourth on 139. But what can Superheat B do to put a spanner in the works? Well, let's find out as the lights are out and we're underway. Let's run down to turns 1 and 2. Oh, one's gone straight on. Oh, that was a big old off. And, well, Michael Mellis from Kart Photo. Cat-like reactions there, Michael. Well done, buddy. Kept out of the way. But someone had a big old Code Brown. They went straight off at turn 1 and then went sliding on the grass. And that, I think, was Matthias Jallerup from Denmark in the 319. And it was the first... Oh, yes, it was a Cosmic. I looked at the livery and I thought, that's a Cosmic chassis, 100%. And so Matthias Jallerup off the circuit. Luckily enough, driver walking away. But there are squabbles up and down the order. This is where it counts the most. But in the meantime, Sverre Ubben is leading. Ollie Jonkers, based on his positioning, goes up to the lead of the final intermediate classification provisionally. So, Ubben first. Second, Jonkers. Third, Luca Thiel. Robbie Stordeur fourth. Ruben Verheyen fifth. And it looks like there was another driver that went off at turn 1 and 2. Philip Enemark from Denmark. And where was Philip? Just looking at the grid. Was running 13th. So might have just been caught up in a possible domino effect there. Field makes its way through out of turn number 11. There's a quintet at the front of the field and they are starting to pull away. Those drivers are Sverre Ubben, Ollie Jonkers, Luca Thiel, who's now back with FM Racing. He's got Robbie Stordeur up his inside, down into turns 1 and 2. And Stordeur now takes third. Verheyen, that's Ruben Verheyen, not Thomas. Now up 5 spots into P5. Dive from a little bit further back. That was on the 311, I believe. Well, it was 3 wide coming... Ho, ho, ho. Oh, my goodness me. Emil Hendricks did not just make a meal of it. He took a walloping big bite out of that. Round the outside at turn 4. Gave complete caution, no caution to the wind. Reimer van Beek has just been given a black and white warning flag from Race Control. The 393. But, well, expect the unexpected in karting. Top 5 covered by 9/10 of a second. A little bit further back, there is some dueling happening through out of turn number 10 and 11. And one of which was Reimer van Beek, who just had one thrown up the inside of him. In the meantime, Ollie Jonkers has just been passed by Robbie Stordeur. So Jonkers and Ubben are separated by 5 points in the final intermediate classification. Stevens and Gilbert ran at the top 4. Longnoir, Radenkovic, Thiel and Stordeur. Robbie Stordeur round out the top 8 overall. They're covered by, at this moment, 34 points. So 8.5 minutes to go. Let's just say, cry havoc and let's slip the Senior Max Dogs of War right about now. And this is going to be a very, very close race. Now, keep your eyes on Austria's Lukas Schlegel from Kraft Motorsport. He's put in the fastest lap of the race. He's quicker than the 5 in front of him. And that is quite crucial. Luca Thiel has just lost another position to Ruben Verheyen, and Schlegel is catching quickly. And he nearly dived up the inside at turn number 6 just a second ago. Now, all I'm going to say is that there are 3 other drivers not that far behind. Krit Knorren, Lex Quintens, and Germany's Noah Janssen. And I'm looking at the lap times. Schlegel quicker than the 5 in front. Knorren quicker than the top 5. Quinton's on par. Janssen a little bit off the pace. But Noah Janssen is familiar with Kart Republic machinery because that's what took him to the German and the B&L Karting Series titles last year. Now change for the lead. Robbie Stordeur gets through at turn 2 on Sverre Ubben. And it's a top 4 Belgian lockout. So Stordeur leads from Ubben, from Jonkers. Jonkers dives through and gets for second position, but the crisscross happens instantaneously. So Sverre Ubben, and that has allowed Robbie Stordeur to get away. Robbie Stordeur has now gotten away because of the fact that Jonkers and Ubben were battling. So from that perspective, it means that things aren't done yet. Lucas Schlegel fires it up the inside through at turn 10 and has got through on Ruben Verheyen, who's aggressively pointed his fist forward, and that's allowed Luca Thiel to go, thank you very much, I'll take that. And that was at turn 13. Top 8 covered by, make that top 9 covered by 2.7 seconds. If you've got a mobile defibrillator by your left or right hand side, I think you might need it. Got 6 minutes to go, plus an additional lap left, and the fireworks haven't really big time gone off yet. Miel Hendricks has just put in the fastest overall sector number 2 out of anybody in this race. But more to the point, well, Robbie Stordeur might find that the drivers behind want to catch him up. Now, because of the fact that Ubben was battling with Jonkers, they both were compromised on lap time. Luca Thiel has just last lap 56.007. Ruben Verheyen's now put the boot on the other foot with regards to the 315 from Germany for FM Racing. And has said, I'll take back 5th. And took it with both hands. And, well, there is a very black front bumper for the 372 of Krit Knorren, who's been put through the ringer this weekend, I might add. And more to the point, it's a case of you've got to just do what you can. And now, with the way things are at the moment, Ollie Jonkers needs to be... Well, the thing is, Ollie Jonkers at the moment is now level on points for the final intermediate classification with Stevens. But I think it might go to count back on that front. So I'm just going to have a look at the results from yesterday. I'm just thinking here. I think Jonkers might have it. Jonkers might have it based on count back. So, and Tay Stevens was 4th. Ollie Jonkers, based on this result, is currently 3rd at the minute. And there's still 4 minutes to go plus an additional lap. If Jonkers wants to make absolutely damn sure that he's through into pole position for the final, he's got to get through on Sverre Ubben. But Ubben is now nearly half a second up the road. But it's changed again because Luca Schlegel has got through. Schlegel now through. And it changes once again. It drops down. Jonkers to 4th in the final intermediate classification. But there's still time. There's still a window of opportunity for Ollie Jonkers to get himself... If he gets himself back into 3rd, he'll be at the top of the final intermediate classification standings, and he'll book himself onto pole position. But sometimes, as we've seen in multiple races over the course of this weekend, that some drivers do not want to start from pole position. Why is that? Because you're at the mercy of anyone to your left and anyone behind you going into the start. Take, for instance, the Scottish Slim Shady done by Lewis Gilbert earlier on in Superheat A to take the lead before we'd even hit turn 3 on lap 1. Sverre Ubben, however, he might put himself, if he gets ahead of Robbie Stordeur, he could put himself actually into P2. It's only a point behind Lewis Gilbert on the final intermediate classification. As I said, the points don't make prizes this weekend when we go into business for the first of 4 rounds of the B&L Karting Series in 2 weeks' time. It will be points make prizes and titles. However, this is a one-off event, so you wipe everything to one side once everything is completed. 2 minutes to go, plus a lap. And Sverre Ubben is now waiting to pick his time. And at the moment, well, could that be right now? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. He was waiting. He went for it up the inside. Sverre Ubben goes through. And that is going to help him. It's also, the funny thing is, Ollie Jonkers has got back past Lukas Schlegel. But Schlegel has returned the favour once again. So it's gonna chop and change like nobody's business. Once they break the timing beam, have a bit of an indication. Well, Jonkers and Stevens, once again, level on points, but Jonkers, based on countback, would be provisionally on pole position. So we're cutting it very, very close. So 56, 55, 54. Right, 2 laps remain for the Superheats for the 2025 Champions Winter Trophy here at Karting Genk. And Sverre Ubben now leads the way. And now, with that lap having been completed, he's not only set the fastest lap of the race, but he's just edged out Tay Stevens to be at the front of the final intermediate classification by 1 point. 152 plays 151. Gilbert third on 147. Jonkers moves back up to 4th on 145. Lukas Schlegel and Robbie Stordeur at the minute are currently running 7th and 8th in the final intermediate classification. But we are coming down to the final couple of seconds of this race. And with it, Sverre Ubben has punched his ticket at the team's home circuit, his own home circuit, to maybe start in the footsteps of it. Well, there's one driver I know that's had a multitude of B&L Karting Series titles with this very team, Dylan LaHaye, multi-time B&L Karting Series Senior Rotax champion. And Sverre Ubben is now pulling away ever so slightly from Robbie Stordeur. And I'm sure that the Lemons family, especially Paul, who founded the team, is going to be very happy that one of his drivers has provisionally put himself on pole position. Sverre Ubben for CD Max has provisionally booked himself on pole position for the top 36 final. He wins after 14 laps by 0.5 of a second ahead of Robbie Stordeur. Lukas Schlegel in third, ahead of Ollie Jonkers, who started from pole position. Ruben Verheyen, Lex Quintens, Luca Thiel. They round out the top 7. Noah Janssen finishes in 8th, ahead of Krik Knoren, with Mio Hendricks rounding out your top 10. Jake Menton finishes 11th, ahead of Theo Lemoigne, Magnus Brandt, Henry Melchior, and Raymond van Beek completing the top 15. Philip Ennemark, Noah Montag, and Jack de Kock round out the finishers. 18 made it to the checkered flag after 14 laps. And unfortunately, well, Michael Endres out, and Matthias Jaderup, unfortunately, taking a trip. Exit stage left at turn 1 on lap 1. And that was his race, done and dusted. But Sverre Ubben provisionally books his place on pole position for the Senior Max Final at 3 p.m. this afternoon. Let's take a look back through the highlights of our last superheat of the 2025 Champions Winter Trophy. Kart photos, Michael Mellis with cat-like reflexes on those tippy toes of his. Gets out of the way of Matthias Gellerup. But there was some great battling up and down the order. Some drivers showing their frustration. Other drivers deciding just to get on with the business at hand and run their own race. Some drivers having to thread the eye of the needle, and especially when you try and throw it around the outside, especially going through into turn number 4. But then things started to get really quite feisty and frantic around the circuit. Sverre Ubbert at one point led the race. Robbie Stordeur, Ollie Yonkers, they all took turns leading the race itself. So with regards to all of that, it's just a case of seeing how things will be going. And Future Party and Seasonal Shop, superb racing by Luca Schlegel. Of course, yeah, Luca I've known for a multitude of years, really showed good pace, but it was a case of one driver would have to make it count, and it was a man from a squad based at this circuit. Sverre Ubbert provisionally books his place on pole position for the top 36 Senior Max final. The home of champions in the Limburg region of Belgium. Well, that wraps up the on-track action here at Karting Genk. Join us just before 1:45 p.m. as we get the business end of this weekend underway. Ladies and gentlemen, it's finals day. 1:45 p.m. we kickstart with Mini. We then go to DD2. We go to juniors and to seniors. So join us here on the B&L Karting Series YouTube channel with myself, Alex Goldschmidt. This is a WFR live TV production. We'll see you after the lunch break for the finals here for the Champions Winter Trophy. See you in a bit.